Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ball Breakers. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube. We are back in the studio today. It is a great feeling. And, Chris, it's awesome to have us back down here.
I missed being down here so much. I mean, doing it on Zoom wasn't terrible. You know, it's very convenient. You just hop on a Zoom call, and it's still like we're talking to each other, but it's just not the same. Like, I can't look to my left and give Doc this face of, like, what did you just say? But it's not the same over Zoom, but I'm just happy to be back.
Mm-hmm. And how about you? Yeah, Earl, I seen a ton of videos of you crushing weights. And I feel like you're getting towards one of the best peaks of your life physically.
I actually am probably in my worst physical condition that I've been in the last 4 years. Just like I haven't worked out in a year religiously, so the last 5 months have been a super grind for me. I just competed in the CrossFit Games online competition. I do it every year, and this year has by far been my worst year doing it. The first so it's a series of a couple workouts. And you do them kind of every week. So, every Friday they release a workout, and you have to do it by Monday. And this was my worst year yet.
Really?
Yeah.
That means you can only go up, right?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad to be here, too. Like Chris said, being in the studio. It's so weird being in the studio. My heart's kind of racing. I'm doing something different. When you're at home on Zoom, you're just, so much more comfortable. But now it's, kind of weird.
Yeah, spotlight's on you. It's funny. You'll be lifting that bar, and there's, 4 plates on each side. And I said I was there one day.
Not me. Just be honest.
So we're going to transition into our Q&A segment brought to you by Halo Creations. Go follow at Halo Creations _ on Instagram, and in her bio you will see her Etsy shop where you can buy our Ball Breakers t-shirts as well as any game day tee that is provided by Halo Creations. Use code BallBreakers10, all one word, no spaces. Code BallBreakers10 to get 10% discount on any item on the shop. And for our first question, which is actually going to transition into much more, we were asked about what it was like to transition from school to your career. And in the past, we were actually asked, and that was from at Sammy Reasoner, by the way. Didn't want to throw her under the bus. At Sammy Reasoner had asked us what it was like transitioning from school to your career. And then we were also asked by at Danielle Ronnie if we were going to have any guests on the show. And believe it or not, we got a good mixture here. He is actually getting all prepped up for his introduction. He's as handsome as it gets and a huge Mets fan as baseball season's getting ready to open up, and is going to take the spot of Doc's pro sports advice as he's been going down the drain recently. Please welcome to the show, all three of us. Let's give a huge Ball Breakers hand to Victor LeBron.
You guys aren't going to clap?
Golf clap.
I thought that's
Can
what
you
you
hear
meant.
it?
Yes.
My bad.
Oh, you were waiting for an actual
Well, yeah, I thought
clap
you said,
from
that's what you
everybody?
said. You was going to give a hand. What do you call this anyway? Terrible start. But, yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. I wanted to thank you guys for bringing me on. Definitely not going to be too hard to replace Doc. It shouldn't be. So I'm not really nervous about that. But like Earl was saying, being here, it is a little weird. I'm my heart's racing. I feel pretty good.
I know a lot of people who talk to me in person and ask me or they tell me I like your guys' podcast, so they ask me what it's like. And I'm honestly, it's really kind of nerve-wracking, right?
Yeah.
You sit down, I always tell people, you think you can make a good podcast until you sit down and put your headset on and you're sitting in front of a microphone, and you almost get this anxious feeling, and you're what am I going to say? How can I say it well? And it just gets, I don't know, my heart's beating hard, right? And then after a while it settles down. But
That's what
Vic,
I
can
say.
imagine you, right, Vic? You've
Yeah.
never done anything like this, and now it's this is different. This feels different.
Yeah, exactly. When you guys first told me that you guys wanted to have me on, I was I'm excited, and then I kind of visualized it, and I'm I think I'd be pretty good at it, sitting around and talking with you guys. And then, like you said, now I'm sitting here and it's completely different, but in a good way, because I think it's going to be fun. I think
It's a different experience. But like I was saying, after a little bit, I know this happens to me. I just completely forget that I even have a headset and I'm talking into a mic, and it just kind of feels like we're all just talking to each other.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point, that's when the conversation really starts to take off, because we all start to kind of forget. Do you guys feel like that happens to you?
So I was just thinking about how we've had a lot of positive feedback on the podcast, and it's funny what the people don't see is in between episodes, especially like the first 3 or 4 episodes. Like how many times in the group message did we feel like we had to change like 75 things to where now it just feels like we're coming back to the stew, doing our thing, changing things one at a time, and we're just getting more eased into it. I actually felt energized coming back to the stew today. Like it's awesome to be back here. Yeah, I feel more like I felt more like Vic our first couple episodes. Now I kind of feel like this is great. Like this feels more normal.
You just get used to it.
It's pretty ironic. So Doc really wanted us to have a guest, and as listeners, viewers can see and hear, Doc's not here today. Unfortunately, his grandmother had passed away recently. So if you guys are friends with Doc, if you're not friends with Doc, please, we're sorry to hear, and that's why we have Vic here today. Well, we were going to have Vic on anyway, and unfortunately Doc couldn't make it today. So
yeah, Doc's definitely in our prayers. One of our best friends, but he is also we definitely miss him truly. But he's also our sports aficionado, and that's why we have Vic on, because there was only one other person that we could have to replace Doc, and it's somebody else who puts in just as many wagers as Doc does when it comes to Vic. However, they're always the opposite wager, it seems like.
Yeah, it's impressive, honestly, how often Doc and I have opposite picks. Like every Sunday during the NFL season, we text each other in the morning, and like I'm like, yeah, like I like so and so, and he's like, okay, cool, like I have the exact opposite, and it's like to a T every single time, and neither of us win.
Well,
So-
listen, Doc's record now has not been very well. There's
Yeah.
some Ball Breakers fans out there that are a little upset with Doc. I know that. So
All right, well,
hopefully he can recover.
So let's get down to it here. The main reason, though, we did want to have Vic on, we want to know, and there's a lot of our listeners that are in the same shoes as us right now. I mean, me and Rocco are still in that sort of transition of moving from being a student into being a professional. Vic, just give us a brief story about your life the last 5, 6 years. I guess you can start in high school and how you ended up to where you are now.
So, yeah, I guess if we're going to go that far back, so obviously, we all went to school, Highlands, and I wanted to go to school to be an engineer. I wanted to do some type of like civil environmental engineer, stuff like that, and also play baseball. So I ended up choosing Rowan. Great program, great school. Engineering didn't end up going that route. Math is really hard and made me realize that I did not want to do that. So, but I still wanted to do something in the environmental field. So I kind of took a step back. I switched my major from civil and environmental engineering to environmental studies.
So it's not technically engineering what you do anymore?
No,
Okay.
it wouldn't be engineering, no. So I ended up picking up environmental studies, which is kind of like a broad major. When my advisor was telling me, it was like, yeah, a lot of people pick that as a major so that they can experience all the different type of fields within it, and then you end up kind of picking a minor of what you want to go into.
Or
Which
you
is-
end up getting like an advanced degree in something
Right.
you were more into than another.
Right. So I ended up picking that. I ended up switching that major my sophomore year of college, and I did the environmental studies. And then my junior year, I picked up a minor in planning and development because I really was into urban development and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the route I wanted to take. So yeah, I graduated in May of 19, and with a degree in environmental studies, minor in planning, and it was really like it was the first time after graduating that probably in like 8 years since before high school started, like I had nothing to do. Like I woke up one day and I was like, I don't have school, I don't have a job, and I don't have baseball or some type of sport to play.
It probably
And it was
felt
weird.
great though.
It-
like low key.
It was great, and I absolutely enjoyed it for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't like it at all. Like it gave me anxiety.
Like you have no purpose.
Well,
Right.
no, not yeah. I guess
Like
you
that's
could say.
no. So
Well, that's a little deep.
I don't want to go
there.
too
I mean,
deep, but like I'm kind of in that phase right now, like where it's just like I'm in between teaching. All right, that was a little too deep, but it's like all right, time out. That's not what I meant. What I meant was it's like if you're not doing everything with your day each day, it's just like you're just wasting your days. Is what I meant.
Right, and over those past 8 years, like I literally had something to do every day, like whether it was school, whether it was sports, job, working, whatever the case might have been. Like imagine going like 8 years and then waking up and not having to do anything.
Hmm.
And it's definitely different. It was definitely different. I had to adjust to that type of lifestyle. And like I said, it was fun. Like I took advantage of it for like the first month or so. Like I was able to hang out with everyone more often as I wanted to, and it was fun. But then I got to the point where it's like, okay, now I'm waking up late. Now I'm not doing anything during the day. Like I need to be doing something. And that's when it kind of gave me like anxiety, not having a job or not, figuring it out, I guess you could say. So I did the whole month or so, let myself like, enjoy it, have fun. And then that's when I kind of started getting into, all right, I have to get a job. I want to start my career. I want to figure it out. And so I did like, I want to say 3 or 4 interviews with different environmental consultants or engineering, stuff like that. Just not really knowing what I still wanted to do specifically, but in the field, I knew I wanted to do stuff in the field. In the field of what I studied. And my path to the job that I have now is very stereotypical in the sense of like knowing someone. Like, everyone says like, oh, it's more about like who you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how, I ended up where I'm at now. And it's funny because, so my boss that I work for now is a family friend of ours. He was actually my dad's college roommate. So,
No way.
yeah,
Oh,
so
I
I've
didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
didn't know that either.
my boss, so my boss is my dad was my dad's college roommate. I've known he helped me when I was a baby. Like I've known him my whole life. And in the middle of that summer when I started looking for jobs, my dad reached out to him to see if he had anything available because he works in construction and development. And he got back to my dad like right away and was like, yeah, we're looking to bring someone in like entry level. It would be perfect for Victor. And I was like, no, like I want to do this. Like I want to do it on my own. Like I want to go through the process of doing interviews, getting hired. Like I want to be able to do that, And it took me like 4 interviews of not getting callbacks to be like, you know what, maybe I should give this a shot,
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate that I realized it later because now looking back, I should have, just taken that opportunity from the start because, I probably would have gotten hired earlier. I would have started, making money earlier. I would have started my career earlier.
That's like a lot of like your own personal pride too.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people don't like to do that. Like I know we have a buddy, his father owns a car body shop, and he doesn't want to just simply take over his father's business. Like people want to make their own path for themselves. They don't want to feel like anyone helped them, and I love that. I really commend that by people. Like I don't want to just seem like, oh, this job was handed to me or something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like the smart thing. Right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. And that's where I got caught up for that exact reason. Yeah, I didn't want to just be like, yeah, I got this job from my dad because
mhm.
and then I didn't do anything, But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like you said, by the time I got hired, I was like looking back, like, damn, I should have probably just taken it from the start.
But at least you explored your opportunities at the time, like
Yeah, definitely.
and you like what you do now, right? Like you've been
Yeah,
there how
so
long?
I've been there for a little over a year and a half now. So my job title, I'm an estimator for a real estate developer. And what we do is, we develop student housing, affordable housing, and military housing all over the country. We are the largest affordable housing developer in the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We develop a lot over all over the country.
Okay. Well, so before we really talk about where you're at now, I do want to dive into like some of the things you were talking about before.
Mhm.
So some things that I always like to hear about. So you did say you played baseball in Highland. I know that you were
Yeah.
a stud pitcher.
Something like
I
that.
want to know, what was it like being a student athlete? Like we know what it's like to be like a high school student athlete, right? Like we all had friends who were student athletes in high school, but like we don't have a lot of friends that moved on to the next level of play, whether you played in college or whatever else there is. I guess it's just college.
Or like minor professionally.
Yeah.
Like,
So like what was it like? Like one thing I want to know about is how was your workload through college? Like I can barely do college without being an athlete. Like I can only imagine what it was like for you.
Yeah, it was definitely hard. It wasn't, it wasn't like very straightforward, very easy. But the one thing I did like about being a student athlete is how routine it was. Like how I'm a very routine based person, which is why I enjoy having the job I have now and creating that routine. But while I was in school and while I was playing baseball, like you have the routine of, waking up early, whether it be an early morning workout or whether it be like an early morning practice. You get that out of the way. You're already waking up early. That's cool. Then when we're in season, all of our classes have to be done by 12:15. So and the cool thing about being a student athlete is they let you, how they have the portal when you have to go pick your classes.
They would have to let you override a couple classes, right?
No.
Well, you had first preference.
Yeah.
Right?
So athletes in season have priority preference. So the portal opens a week earlier. So
That's
we get
so
to
awesome.
so we got to pick our classes before everyone. And
all the good classes, best professors.
so we had to do that.
I'm laughing because I actually physically remember me 2 consecutive semesters going to Chris's, and he was like, "Yo, can you just schedule my classes for me?"
Rocco scheduled 2 semesters for me because I'm telling you, it is a world of a difference for you because you had the first preference, and that was probably awesome.
Oh yeah.
When I would go on, they said, whatever class you are, you get this date. So I was a sophomore. It was, pick it March 28th at 7 a.m., right?
Mm-hmm.
I would get on the computer at like 6 and wait and get ready and keep refreshing the page with the classes that I wanted. And I would do 5 every time. Sometimes I would do 7 because I knew I wasn't going to get any of them. I would maybe get one class that I wanted.
Yeah.
And then from there, you have to just go, do classes I guess you don't really want as much, or the professors, the best
terrible.
are gone. So that was probably awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely something that I probably didn't realize like how great it was because we had it we were able to do it every year. But now looking back and hearing
And it's such a
everyone
small
else,
thing too. You're
Yeah.
picking your classes, it is what it is. But for someone in my shoes, it was completely different.
Yeah, I mean you hear all the time people that just don't get the classes they want or the professors they want because it's like they open up that portal and it's first come first serve.
There's thousands of people trying to get it.
A whole school worth of people trying to join classes. So I definitely enjoyed that part about it. So yeah, in season, all of our classes had to be done by 12:15. And sure, there were some people that just didn't have classes that ended at 12:15, but for the most part, you were done by the afternoon. And then from there, you got to run over to practice at 1:30. And the good and the bad part about Rowan specifically was that during the off season or when the weather isn't great, we had 2 indoor facilities that we would go to practice, and they were both probably about 15 minutes away. So after class, you're sprinting back to the dorm or the house, changing, getting into your gear, hop in the car, and then drive 15 minutes away to the facility that we're practicing to, which is cool because it's great that we have those facilities. It's just, another thing that you got to factor in during your day, that you got to go drive out there to practice instead of going to the field. But yeah, so you practice from, I guess, 1 to 3:30, or if it's a little later, sometimes it would run to 4-ish. And then, after that it's eat, homework, and just really chill out. But
Now, if you had the choice, would you, obviously not a regret, would you do anything differently in terms of how you mesh your education with your extracurricular, doing baseball? Would you maybe take a year off and focus on school more, or maybe the opposite, or or did you just enjoy the college path that you just being a student athlete and having your classes and being hectic throughout college?
no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the way that it all worked out, and I thought about it a lot during school too, because I always thought all right, if I wasn't playing a sport, I would obviously have a lot more free time, but I don't know what I would have done with it, and I don't know if that would have affected how I went about school. I don't know if I would have partied more or studied more, whatever the case might have been. Whatever I would have done with that free time, it's always interesting to think about what I would have done if I hadn't played a sport. But because I did, everything was so structured, everything was so routine that I enjoyed it.
Now, do you think it's kind of BS the way that it's laid out for you to, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but more so from like a financial aspect throughout college of if you're putting all this time into sports, like when's your time to work or, have some time to have some like your own time.
Yeah, time to yourself.
Yeah, your own decompression time.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta create it. You have to find time for yourself, and I think that is most important. Whether you play a sport or not, whether you don't even have to really do anything. You should always have to find time for yourself, because that affects your mental health. Like if I'm going to practice, going to school, and I don't have time to myself at night or whatever the case might have been, like mentally I'm going to be shot, and that's going to affect my performance, whether it be in school, whether it be in baseball. Like you have to make sure that you have time to yourself to be able to perform in whatever you're doing.
I bring it up because it was pretty year round for a sport that was in season for spring. Like as soon as like even the fall semester hit, you were still doing stuff.
So in Division III specifically, I think you're only allotted a certain amount of fall practices. So from the first month that we get there, I think we started in like September. School starts in September. So for the first day that the school starts, I think it was like 36 days worth of practice in the fall. And we have to use them because you just do. And those include like games, like some towards the end of my time there, so like our senior year, they were able to start scheduling scrimmages in the fall. So we would have a scrimmage or two in the fall as well.
Against like local teams or each other?
Both. Like we'll do scrimmages with each other more often, but like RCGC, like the community college, the local community colleges will play in the fall as well.
That's pretty cool.
Which is cool. But yeah, you're right. It is year round. It's not just spring. It's there's a whole season in the fall too.
So you were just mentioning your senior year, and it just made me think, and I want to comment or I guess like ask, like when you were talking about it, obviously now you're not a professional baseball player. You don't play in the MLB or anything like that. Like I want to know, and I don't want to get you all sad and all that stuff, but they always say like you can't play ball forever. Like whatever sport you're playing, you can't play ball forever. Mm-hmm. Like so. I mean, you seem happy now. Like, did it ever? Like, when did you come to terms with I'm not going to be a professional baseball athlete? And how? Like, I can't stop thinking about. I don't know if you. I know you watched Euphoria, Chris, or I don't know if you guys did.
I haven't. No.
And listeners, if you watched it, like I just keep thinking about that episode of McKay, right? And he went to college, and then you just get the realization after high school how many kids are there in a high school program, and then how many kids are in a college program. And then you get to like major league, how many, and then your chances just keep getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer of being a professional athlete. And like, was it hard for you to come to terms with like I'm not going to be professional, or like did you go into it thinking like I'm doing this solely to have fun, I like doing it, or? And I don't want you to get all sad and deep,
no,
but, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have a question after you explain this.
Okay, so yeah, I guess it's a combination of both. So I went into it obviously. I went into it because I love it. I obviously love the game. I want to play the game. But for me, it was always like, if I have the ability to do something after college, whether it be minor league or independent league, whatever the case might have been, then that'll happen. That's cool. But I was never hard pressed over taking it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad you say that, because there's a lot of kids, I mean, no one that I know personally, but you always hear stories like people are kind of just like hanging on for dear life to their I'm going to be a professional or I want to play ball forever. Like, and I'm glad that you say that, because unfortunately there's a lot of people that get to like their junior, senior year, they're like, I'm not getting looks from teams, or whether you're in like you're a junior college and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen after my 2 years. So I'm really glad you say that, because there is a lot of people, unfortunately, that just kind of have to keep holding on to the dream. And unfortunately, like I said, it just gets slimmer and slimmer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it sucks seeing it from the outside, like seeing those people and realizing from the outside, like, all right, like, come on, like, we all know nothing's going to pursue from this, but they obviously don't see it that way, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, like I said, I was never really hard pressed on, all right, I have to take it. I have to go pro or I have to, go on to the next level from here.
You
Just
put
because-
so much pressure on yourself. No, sorry to
No,
cut you
yeah,
off,
yeah.
but someone like that, and especially if you did that, you're just putting that much more pressure on yourself. I'm sure that adds up over time. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, Earl, it's like if you think that there's not really a chance, you're gonna have to come to terms with it eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen it with some of my teammates because, well, so it's actually funny because I played with guys that got drafted. So our senior year, we had 3 guys from that team get drafted.
Wow.
And we had 2 pitchers and a hitter get drafted. And these guys were draft prospects like all throughout college, which is rare for Division III. So I think Division III only averages maybe like 10 to 12 guys drafted per year.
Really?
Yeah, it's a very, very slim number, and you have to be very, very good for them to notice you because we don't get as much exposure, obviously. So seeing those guys and how they work, their work ethic, how they do things, how they go about, baseball, it's very different.
There's probably individual camps they were in.
Yeah. There's definitely different ways that they go about it, and I think that plays into when I realized, like, I'm never going to do that. Like, I'm not going to do the things that they do the way they do it, at trying to get to that next level. And that's also kind of what helped me realize, like, okay, I'm obviously not going pro because I see what these guys do on a daily basis. And not that I don't want to do that, but I just didn't really have any interest in doing that.
Now, this is an or question. Were you always that mindset throughout all 4 years of college, or was there a time where it's like, maybe there's an opportunity to where, and specifically, was there an opportunity, whether it had to do with scouts, a camp, something, where if you'd done it differently, it could have like projected you into either a transfer to another college, an opportunity in a game, something like, is there something you look back on to where that could have been something that led to something more?
Yeah, so we have every fall we have Scout Day at Rowan, and it's a few scouts come out and they ask our coach, all right, who are realistically guys that we could see moving on to the next level, and it was the 3 guys that I mentioned, and every year the seniors get to participate because it's their last year and whatever.
They should have an opportunity.
Yeah, so my senior year, I went out, I pitched, and I was like low 80s or high 80s, low 90s. And the coach had come up to me and was like, yeah, scout, like, he said he liked you, but he was like, if you can get to like mid 90s by the spring, then you might have a chance at doing something past this level.
That's a lot to ask.
And I was
That's
like, oh,
tough.
shit, yeah. Well, yeah, let me just gain 5 miles an hour in 2 months. But that's when I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But realistically, I knew that wasn't really achievable just because, in general, you don't just gain velocity over a couple months like
to
that.
just kind of piggyback off Rocco, like he was saying, like, what would you do differently? I always think about, like, Aaron Rodgers' story, right? Like, Aaron Rodgers was not getting scouted by anyone.
Yeah.
And they came out to see, like, what was it, a wide receiver or running back? And one of the scouts just was like, seeing Aaron Rodgers throw, and they're like, oh, my God, he's a prospect. Like, he's a guy. Right?
I
So
didn't
like
even know that.
Yeah, he was never scouted. He was at
Wow.
like junior college or whatever. Something like that.
He definitely went. I think he went to UCLA.
Yeah,
He wa-
I'm pretty sure that it was something like scouts came. They had a teammate that was very good. They came to see him, and then they were just like, "Wow, this kid can throw. Like, he's a prospect. He's a guy." And then ever since then, they were like, Aaron Rodgers was on everyone's radar.
Mhm.
So like, it's kind of like luck of the draw,
Yeah.
right? So like, if a scout comes out, and let's say you're just having your best pitching day, but they're there to see your teammate, like maybe they'll be like, "Oh wow, Victor's really good. Let's look at this guy." So sometimes it's just like, when do you bring it? And you always hear stories of like one of our friends having a scout day and like, oh, I did bad today or whatever. Oh, I had my best day today. Like, it's just, it all just depends when you bring it and who's seeing, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that happens a lot more often. Like, people get exposed because that people are there to see other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that happens more often than we think.
Because, I mean, if it's a pitcher, you can watch him pitch the whole time. But I feel like especially if you're going to see like a center fielder or something, and, you're going to watch the whole game as a scout, there's a really good chance, like, maybe they can see the pitcher as like a stud,
Yeah.
but he might not have been getting looks before that. Excuse me. One of the things I wanted to ask was coming back to high school. So you committed to rowing at the beginning of your senior year, correct?
Yeah, it was around December. I think I committed, like right before
Okay.
Christmas.
Before the season, though.
Yes, before the season.
Right.
Yeah, so I went into the season knowing I was already going to row.
I was going to say, what other schools were you looking at or that were looking at you?
So the only other school that I had like an offer for was from Widener. I went there, I visited there, and at that visit they said, we would love to have you. We would have a roster spot for you. So that was really the only other official school
Same
that
division.
Widener, yeah, Division 3, yeah. Yeah, it was the only other school that made me like an offer, I guess you could say. But recruiting wise, like I guess you could say I was recruited by a bunch of different schools. And this is probably actually my funniest recruiting story. I was at a showcase, which is just an individual camp. You go, you do drills, and there's college coaches there to watch you and scout you and stuff like that. So I was at a showcase up in at Temple, right? And I had a great day, like a great showcase. And afterwards, the Temple coach comes up to me, and we're talking. He's like, I liked your day. You had, everything's pretty good. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. My parents went to Temple. Like I like Temple. I've always been around Temple. Really fun. I get an email the next morning from the coach. I'm like, oh, this is sick. Like he's emailing me. Like maybe this is gonna be it. And he goes, yeah, great talking to you yesterday. Just wanted to let you know we cut our baseball program.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that because I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I was like, wait, what?
They cut the entire program?
Yeah. Not only did they cut the program, but they had that same day they cut like 7 sports.
Temple.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Temple hasn't had a baseball program since then.
Wow, dude, and they,
Yeah, I
their
remember when that
football
happened.
team-
It was a big deal.
They're a big team. They're a big school.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Locally.
Absolutely.
I feel like
That's-
I feel like when
100%.
you say Temple, it runs synonymous with names like Rutgers as a sports school
Yes.
or Villanova, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Maybe not as big as Villanova. No, I guess.
Villanova's
I guess.
just good in basketball, but I mean, aside
mean
from that,
Oh, wait, yeah, basketball.
they're not big anywhere else. Really, I mean, they're just like a big school to go to. But
They
other
have
than
a football team, though.
and truthfully,
I don't know if they're any good.
And
They're not. They're in a lower Division 1.
Didn't Brian Westbrook go there?
I don't know.
I can look.
I'm not
Not
sure.
I
Brian
don't know
Westbrook.
where-
Wait,
I
one
don't
of the big name guys on the Eagles went to Villanova. I can't think of his name.
I don't know the history of this, but the way it seems was, well, no, they've been big for a while. They've been big since the '80s, Villanova in basketball. But I mean, any other sport, they weren't that big.
Yeah.
I guess they can be along with the Rutgers and whatever. But I mean, they still have a big sport somewhere.
Was it him? Did you just look that
I
up?
just looked up notable football players from Villanova. I don't know any of these guys.
Okay.
They're not very notable, I guess.
Wow, I was dead wrong. Anyway.
So yeah, that was probably my funniest recruiting story. I was like, damn, that
Would you
kinda
have gone?
stinks.
if it was a-
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Wow.
would have. Mhm.
That's so crazy.
I just have like one more thing to comment on before we move on to like Vic's being a professional. But like one thing that people always say about when you're in college and even in high school is to like get involved, right? So that's like the biggest thing they tell you at college. Like, oh, you're not feel or like you're feeling lonely. You don't have friends at college. It's a new thing. You should think about getting involved in a group. But something like baseball reminds me so much of joining a fraternity. Like those guys are like your brothers. Like you go to war with them every whatever day you
Yeah.
play your sport.
Any
And-
team sport. For
Yeah,
sure.
any team
Mhm.
sport.
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
the benefits from being on a baseball team or any team in general is just like being in a fraternity or a sorority. Like, and those guys, I'm sure you're best friends with those guys now. And it's just like such an awesome thing because when you go into college, you don't really have anyone, especially if you don't go to college with your friends or something. I mean, I know you had friends that went to Rowan. It's our local school.
Right.
But those guys you just meet and they're your friends for life now. It's just like a fraternity, right? And you
yeah.
have all the benefits of being in a fraternity, but except you guys just played sports instead of I don't know whatever. I don't even know what Greek life guys do.
There's actual cherishable moments to share. in the
Yeah,
game.
and not for nothing, you have long-lasting connections.
Yeah.
Like so let's say if you didn't work where you worked, but there was a guy on your team, you could get a job through him, or your network is just expanded 10 times more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I still talk to guys from the teams that I played with in those 4 years like every day, like I have group messages, a couple different ones with them, and like you said, it is like a fraternity in a sense,
You guys have a baseball house. It's just like a frat house. You
Yeah,
have a
exactly.
baseball
From
house, you have-
my junior and senior year, I lived in the baseball house.
I love that house.
I didn't.
There
It
was,
was-
what, like 9, 10 guys?
It was 9 of us, yeah.
Nine guys?
Nine guys in one house, and everyone had their own room, which was kind of crazy. It was really a big house, but it was
it was.
super old. It was super beat.
just
but
a frat house.
It was meant
no,
for
it,
you
it was
guys.
actually, so when we moved in there our junior year, it was a frat house before we moved in. It was one of the frats, and I vividly remember doing the walkthrough for the house when we were like looking at it and gonna move in, and you would have thought like it was an abandoned homeless place, like,
No
and just
way.
like it was so trashed because I guess the frat that lived there beforehand just had like a one last like
Hoorah.
yeah, whatever party, like let's just trash this place, we're moving out. And I was like, oh my god, like this is like it's crazy. But it was an old frat house, and then we moved into it, and they did some like some work to it, some cleaning things up here and there, which was pretty cool. But getting back to the whole friendship and that bond, you're right. It's something that is really cool because it expands your network. You create other friend groups, and it's something that I definitely enjoyed, having.
I will personally say it's something that I'm pretty jealous of, right? So this is my 5th year now at Rutgers Camden, and I know all of like 12 people.
Mhm.
And it's not even like I know them. Like it's not. I would
Yeah,
just see
you
him
know
like,
of
hey,
them,
what's
yeah.
up, man? I don't even remember his name.
Right.
You know what I mean? So those are guys that you just meet, you didn't know prior, and they're just your friends every day at school.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a lot of issues when you move on to college, and it's why a lot of people, I think personally, can't handle college, because if you don't have that like social connection, I mean, deep on the surface level social connection, like you don't have people who are familiar with you, and that's why a lot of people don't make it through college, or they don't like being away for college. They don't have that backbone to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
It's tougher. It's definitely tougher when you commute too. Like
Mhm.
living
Yeah.
on,
Yeah,
living.
commuting was
It's hard.
terrible.
It's hard to have any type of connections with people when you commute.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
it's nearly impossible, because then it's like for the most part you're geographically somewhere else, or you have to time it to where you need to meet at college, which is like a 25-minute
But
drive. Like it doesn't make sense.
In the same breath, there's plenty of people I know from Rutgers Camden who went to high school with me. We graduated in the same high school class, and they have, just from joining, let's say, like SGA, like the Student Government Association, like they have made so many friends through that. And like that's why it's so important, they say, that you should be actively trying to make connections, whether you're joining a group or if you're even just finding friends to study with after class. So that's like one of the biggest pluses that I always hear from people about playing a sport in college, is that these people are going to be your brothers and sisters for life. Like you're always going to have people to talk to when you get to school.
Yeah, absolutely. And like to go off of that, that's part of the reason why I moved into the baseball house, or why I started living with my teammates. So my freshman year, I roomed with 2 random people. Like I didn't pick my roommates at all. And then fortunately, they're 2 great guys, 2 of my best friends. You got
One of them is our graphic designer.
Oh yeah, you're
Joe.
right. Yeah,
And
Joe.
just look at that connection that we made because Victor decided to branch out and move in with random guys, and now one of them is a great friend of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say before you go on, Vic, everybody that I met through at Rowan was through Victor, through you. So
a lot of people.
that's
for
very
sure.
nice to know.
Yeah,
And-
I think that's so cool. No, I think that's so cool that that's just how our network has grown, like through meeting other people by branching out, and I think that's pretty cool.
You got very lucky with your random roommates.
I did. Oh my
Two
god, yeah.
great guys.
Yeah, 2
That
great guys.
stand-up guys
Awesome,
is
so
awesome.
much fun.
That freshman dorm was one of my favorite things. Dude, that dorm had to be no bigger than what the people see in our YouTube video,
No,
and
yeah.
it fit like all 3 of you guys.
It was great. Well, yeah. So at the time, they had too many kids coming in and not enough dorms, so they started making triples, and it was us
so
3,
bad.
us 3 in a room that was meant for 2 people. So it was crazy. But yeah, to go back on the whole branching out kind of thing. So after our freshman year, we obviously became close. I became close with my roommates, and all you guys met them. We became close with all of them, and they still break my balls for it to this day. But I moved into those apartments across from the Landmark our sophomore year. but I did it with 3 teammates that I became close with. And I wanted to do that because freshman year, I had, my 2 roommates, great guys, and I was lucky to have all of our friends because we all went to Rowan. We all, still hung out. But I knew that I was always going to have that. Like, I knew, my friends aren't going anywhere. Like, I'm still going to see them. I'm still going to hang out with them. So I didn't really hang out or socialize with our baseball team like at all my freshman year. I was on a side of campus where there was no baseball players. There was only 2 dorms on the side of campus that I lived on, and in those 2 dorms there was no baseball players. Like every other teammate was on the other side of campus, and I just didn't really socialize with them a lot my freshman year. So going into sophomore year, I didn't want it to get to the point where, damn, I played 4 years and I'm not friends with anyone,
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a big reason why I moved into that apartment with them, because I wanted to get closer and I wanted to, have that experience, because at the end of the day, I know my friends aren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and we were all there too, so it was like that was a good move for you, 100%.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then especially when you moved in with all them guys, that was probably so much fun.
Yeah, the house was definitely fun.
You definitely got pranked. You had to have gotten pranked.
What do you mean pranked?
And when you moved in with 10 guys, you had to have gotten your balls broken, or like they screwed with your heat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we did we did a lot of
They threw an egg at
Typical
you.
guy.
just
typical
guys
guy
being
stuff.
dude stuff. Yeah, absolutely. We had a goldfish.
How
Did
is
you?
he?
Yeah, we abused that thing. It was bad.
Oh,
It was bad. I don't know how that. I don't know.
Well, before we let's just brush that under the rug.
Yeah, that was so bad.
So
I don't know how that thing survived.
I'm really glad that you brought us into what it's like to be a student athlete. Us 3 are probably some of the least athletic guys there are. So we are.
Speak for yourself.
Nah, I see your CrossFit, all that stuff.
So-
Dude, that's like really cool and athletic.
Yeah,
Dude,
I
the
can't
way the way you lift is pretty impressive.
it's just a technique thing. There's a technique to everything, and I hate talking about myself. So
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
You have that many traits to yourself.
sorry,
I get
sorry.
it.
My bad.
So I'm really
Anyway.
glad though that Victor could shine a light to us and also our listeners. What is it like to be a student athlete? Because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people know what it's like to be an athlete in high school. Like, oh, I played field hockey, I played soccer, and it's mostly recreational, but it's not for real really until you make it to that next level. So I'm glad you were able to tell us, pretty much let us into your mind of what your experience was like. But I do want to talk about transitioning into being a professional. And while you were kind of giving us like a summary of your life the last couple of years, you were talking about how, you got your job basically through a mutual friend or your family friend. You got denied from a couple jobs, something that happens to me weekly at this point. But I want to know, so you already talked about some of that stuff. That's some of the questions I had. But what I do want to know is how are you dealing with adulting, right? Like, is that, you guys know what I'm saying? Like, just being an adult.
Yeah.
Like, you still live at home, right?
Yeah.
We were just talking about this the other day. It all comes together to where there's a path from high school to I wasn't trying to take your shine away. I just wanted to give context to the conversation we were having.
Definitely.
We were talking like high school to college to career, whatever you were doing. And after that, then you have to really start like piling up. Like, all right, now I got to maybe own a home, get a new car, and like start saving up for these wedding, for whoever, you plan on getting married. So that all comes to your head with your career.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I really like about, I guess, adulting is kind of like what I was saying earlier. Like, I'm a very routine person. I like having like a specific structure, and that's probably the biggest thing I like about working in a professional setting is that, all right, I have my job. I know what it's going to be. Like, I know on a daily basis what I'm going to do and how that's not really going to change. So from there, I can now start to plan out different things. Like you said, whether it be like making different payments or what I want to do, like as an adult, I guess you could say. Like, I think that's the biggest thing I like of, all right, my routine is what it is now. I don't have to worry about that. Now I can branch off and do what I want to do based on that. So that's probably the biggest part that I like about adulting, we could say.
So my girlfriend is on the same level as you and Chris, right? Like, she just got done school. She's now working in her professional setting. And one thing, well, she's a teacher, and one thing she always says to me, like, I can't imagine doing this every day, right? And I feel like there's a lot of anxiety in finding a job, but there is also a lot of anxiety in once you start. So she's coming to the realization now, like, well, luckily she gets summers off, but now she's like, I can't believe people do this every day, right? And you and Chris, Victor, you and Chris are now at that point where, like, well, yeah, this is my life. Like, I get up, I do my 9 to 5 or whatever the case. And, like, how do you deal with that? Or are you, like, pretty, like, come to terms with it? Like, yeah, this is fine. Or...
So, yeah, I have come to terms with it in that way. Like, yes, I know every day is, going to wake up, go to your job, and do what I do. But I guess my job specifically, like what I do in development and construction. So I guess let me backtrack and explain my job. So I'm an estimator for a developer, as I was saying, and we're part of the pre-construction. So any type of new apartment building or student housing project that they want to do, they want to develop, has to go through us first. And our department as estimators develop the budget for those projects. Whether they come to fruition or not is beyond us, but we, set the budgets and we make those budgets for those projects. A couple of examples, like Holly Point at Rowan, we built that.
That's
and,
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Or the crossings even, like we built that. Those are kind of examples of student living and affordable housing that we build. But those kind of projects, like if they wanted to build another Holly Point, they come to us and say, hey, all right, here's our budget. Can you guys make it work? Is this realistic? And then, it obviously gets into more detail with that. But with that being my job, I like it so much is because I'm seeing so many different kinds of projects so often that it's never really the same thing. I'm never really working on, I don't get to work and I'm working on this project on months on end. Like right now, I'm probably working on 3 or 4 different projects that aren't even in New Jersey. I'm working on 2 in Texas, 1 in Arkansas, and 1 in Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you do all that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's cool though.
yeah, that's why I really enjoy what I do because, yeah, like I said, it's something different every day or something different often.
It's just
you know?
interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And also, I don't know if you ever thought about this, but from you telling me what you do, a lot of people like to get, I know this is going to sound deep because Rocco was talking about purpose, but a lot of people seem to love their job because it gives them a feeling of purpose. So Chris is an advisor financially, like he can help people get health insurance or life insurance. Like he gets a sense of good feeling. He's helping people essentially. My girlfriend is a teacher. She loves to help kids further their education or help them with assist people in any way they need. So for you, I don't know if you think about this, and if you do, let us know. But to me, it sounds like you help build affordable housing for students or military, whatever the case, and you might get a sense of good feeling from doing that, right? So it's not like you're making $1 million mansions for people who don't even need it. Like you're helping people get through their everyday lives, right? By building affordable housing and getting the best cost for your company so that they can build a good place for someone to live for a good price. So I don't know if you think about that, but that is something that I think that you should think about. Like you're important. You're an integral part of helping people in any way that you can.
No, yeah. So that is definitely something that I do think about, and my company does a really good job of making sure everyone knows that what they're doing and what your job might be is important. Their company, I think, motto is communities that lift lives or something like that. And the way, they make you feel important is every project that is completed, they'll fly the people out that worked on the project to see it, to see the finished product. And you go see these projects that they're done, projects that I've worked on, they'll take us out there and you see the project come to fruition and you see people move in and you get the sense of realization, like, damn, like I worked on this project, like this is pretty cool. Now, like, these are people that are moving in, they're going to have a place to stay.
And
like you said,
that seems like something that might get lost on your end a lot. So like your job isn't as personal as Chris's job or my girlfriend's job, right? Like it's not so personal where you're like, I'm helping you. But like, I think that you should take that. So if you ever get in like a slump through work, you can say, "Oh man, I'm not really feeling it today." You can always kind of flip that switch and turn back and say, "I'm doing this for a greater cause."
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And that really helps a lot of people. So I think a lot of people should be having that sort of realization, like when you're having and it gets tough when you work in an office setting, right? Because you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, and it's not like The Office on Netflix.
You got like,
Nah,
you
it's
got like
not,
a Dwight
yeah.
messing with you the entire time.
Yeah, like
Nah,
you really
yeah.
do get into that like sort of depression of like working in your cubicle 9 to 5. But when you can think about that and flip that switch and say, "This is good for others. I'm glad I can help."
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it gets tough because it's like I said, it's not as personal as some other jobs out there.
Yeah, and it definitely took me a while to realize that because when I started, so I came in like with no experience of what I do, like specifically like estimating. There's no like, you don't go to school to be an estimator. It's something that either you just pick up by working on a trade or something like that, or you take like a class on it in your major. There's nothing really like you go to school for estimating. So I came in with no experience, and it was okay because that's what they were looking for. They were like, we want to bring someone in entry level that has a general idea about construction and development, which I did. But they say we want to bring someone in so we can kind of train them and have them do it their way from the ground up. So I got really lucky in that sense. But it was frustrating because that's great and all that they wanted to do that, but I still had no experience. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right. What were your first few months like just learning the career and job itself? Like, was there a lot of like anxiety?
It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was definitely overwhelming, and which is why it took me a while to realize, to take that step back and say, I'm doing this for a good cause, a better cause. But it took me a little bit to kind of get used to being in the routine of being in a professional work setting and doing what I do specifically. I was looking things up and trying to figure things out like while I'm home too, just because I'm a very like I want to be able to do good, I guess you
That's
could
awesome.
say, and in the job, and I didn't have that right away. So it was frustrating at first, but I picked it up pretty well.
That's where I leaned away from my job. When I went home, I tried so hard to like be interested in it, to like just look up some articles and stuff. I think that's when I realized that wasn't the exact passion that I had, because I see people who have that passion of researching what they do in their career, and I was like, that has to be like a pure passion. Like that has to be like a pure want to do that. It's not something you can just turn on and flip a switch.
Yeah, definitely.
You also never really had a plan to do that
Oh, no
ever,
shot. Yeah.
like, ever before.
It was just a
until it happened.
referral, so I took a job. Yeah.
Vic, one of the things I wanted to say was, where have you gone so far? I know you went to Arizona, but I don't know if it was for that.
No, that was just a vacation. So it's unfortunate because with COVID we weren't able to travel
For that whole
like
year.
at all.
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Like,
I forgot.
it sucks. But before that though,
Forgot about that.
yeah. So before that though, I was able to travel twice. The first trip I took was to Richmond, Virginia, and I drove down there with my boss. We stayed there I think 3 days, and that was the first trip we took. It was really cool. Like, it was a cool experience. Like, I didn't really know how it was gonna go, and like you said, you get out there, you see the job, you see what you're working on in person. It really brings it to perspective.
What was that one in Virginia? Was it a
So
complex?
it was a renovation of of 6 buildings that we own. So we do renovations and new construction. So we had to go down there and see what the buildings were like.
Oh,
So
before you worked on it?
so these are projects we saw beforehand.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so any type of renovation project that we do, we typically go out and see what it looks like as it is, so we can get a better feel for what we're dealing with.
Right.
So we went to Virginia to see those buildings. That was pretty cool. Richmond is a really cool area. It's small, but we stayed on like they have like a main strip, and it's small, but it was
Just
pretty
like
cool.
every city.
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
every city.
exactly. It was cool though. It's a cool place to stop. And then the second trip I went on to was Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have a townhome complex there as well that we're renovating. Huge property. Like, I think it spread out over like a mile long. Like it was a
Really?
lot of
Oh my
yeah.
God.
It was. I think it's like over 100 buildings, like or 100 townhomes. Yeah, that one took like I think 3 or 4 days to really get into.
Yeah.
But we stayed in Tulsa, and I really liked Tulsa. It was very cool. It was. I say this all the time. It was weird because the city of Tulsa is kind of like Philly, like it's a city environment, but the population is like obviously half of Philly. So we would leave the job. We would leave the job site to go back and like where we stayed in the city at like 4 or 5 o'clock, and we were like, damn, like we're gonna hit traffic and stuff like that. But no, like there was none.
What?
We were talking about this before. I said I feel like I would really enjoy that if it was like a city environment with less people, like less dense. That would be
Well,
my
'cause
incentive.
Philly
to move
is
to the city.
just crazy at all times.
Well, yeah.
It's just a lot. Well, your typical cities like Boston, Philly,
Big,
Chicago,
big time cities like that.
Like I feel like that's a huge, like it's a great environment to just have some nightlife, but not that dense.
Yeah, no, it was weird at first because yeah, it just felt empty. But then I'm like, wait a second, there's just not that many people that live here.
Right.
But it was cool. It was a cool spot, cool town. There was a lot of different like breweries and stuff around there that we got to, check out after work and stuff. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, those are the only 2 places I would travel to, and looking forward to traveling more.
I was gonna say, are they redoing? Is it coming back soon or
slowly?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. We a lot of the projects we're working on now are new construction, so there's nothing really to see because nothing's obviously built yet.
You can do over like the way you want from the start. It's pretty routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's just really nothing to go see. So we
So
haven't
hopefully
really been
by the
traveling.
time they're done, maybe like some travel restrictions will be loosened and stuff.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
you'll be able to get out there. Where are they at? You said Texas and
Yeah, Texas, Florida, Arkansas, and there's another one I forget. There's a bunch.
Texas seems cool. I hear a lot of people say nice
Oh,
things about Texas.
We might open a branch down there. That's how busy it is. There's
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
going on down there.
Texas is booming right
Yeah,
now.
it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Them in Arizona, they're they're booming.
And it's
cities
cheap
right
to
now.
build down there too. Like it's like crazy how cheap it is. So yeah, a lot that's going on in Texas.
So I'm really glad you were able to have us, or we were able to have you rather.
No, he was able to have us.
Yeah, thank you for
He's way
having
more
us.
qualified.
nah, thank you.
So
guys.
like
Thank you
one
guys.
last thing, just to kind of close out of like what we talked about today. Like I said earlier, beginning of the episode, me and Rocco are still in that position of transitioning from being a student into being a professional. I know for a fact, I really take into account a lot of our listeners. They love to give us feedback on how we're doing. I know for a fact we have listeners that are students, student athletes. You have a lot to offer as far as that. People transitioning from being a student to being a professional. We have listeners of all walks of life. So if you just want to give a little bit of advice to some of these people, whether, to the student athletes, to the students, to people that are in the same shoes as me and Rocco, like I said, you got a quick little advice for us?
I got 2. I guess the 2 biggest things that I want to take away from it all. The first one is to, use your resources. Don't feel like you have to do everything on your own. Don't feel like you have to, have that sense of pride because you the resources that you probably have more than you think, and being able to use those goes a long way down the road. So that I guess that's one thing I would say is to really take advantage of your resources and your network. And then the last thing is, like I was saying earlier, just make time for yourself. Make sure you take care of your mental health, and that goes a long way. And that taking care of that will take care of a lot of other things down the road.
We're skipping Chris's fat fact today.
Well, actually,
Vic.
hold
I
on,
was-
Rocco. Let me jump in here. So now is when we would usually do my fat fact, right? But since it's a little bit of a different week, Vic's here. What I want to do is ask Vic to give the people a pick in place of Doc. So no Doc's lock this week. We're gonna have a Vic's pick.
Yeah, so I heard Doc's Locks was kind of struggling.
Doc is getting heat.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, he could use a week off.
Yeah.
It's, it's a little different around here.
refresh the system.
So-
I get it.
Yeah.
I think that no fat fact this week. We're gonna have a Vic pick.
So Vic's pick is gonna be. I'm gonna have to go tomorrow. College basketball.
Monday.
Monday. My pick is gonna be Baylor. Take the points. They're playing Arkansas. It's not really a fun pick, but Baylor I think is
What's
On
the
it.
spread? I'm sorry.
I think last I checked it was 7 points.
But I'll tell you what, our guy Doc, man, I think that he's a little infatuated when he's picking his locks with the fun pick.
Yeah.
But when you pick a lock, it's a lock. You know, you don't want to do it to have fun. You're gonna make some money, but
I feel confident. I don't know. It's nothing against Doc. First of all, when Doc's hot, Doc's hot. Like I've seen him hit like 5-14
Oh,
parlays
and
in like
he's
2
hot.
weeks.
He goes. He gets
he's,
streaky.
He's so sexy.
Yeah, so it's really sexy.
Right.
But dude, I'll tell you what, Baylor. There's just something about that team.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched college basketball this entire season. I love college basketball. I think they are on the tier with Gonzaga. In my bracket, I have them beating Gonzaga in the national championship, so it might be a little bit there. But just betting wise, like you said, sometimes people get lost in the fun picks, and I think this is one where I think Baylor just continues to roll, continues to prove that they're a top team, and I feel safe with that pick.
So Baylor plus
Yeah, there
7.
you have it.
-7.
-7.
Yeah,
Okay,
-7.
Baylor -7.
That's what I saw it at. I don't know
Tomorrow-
if it's going to change.
Monday the 29th. Vic's pick is in.
Arkansas has had some really interesting games. Like every game has been exciting. Even if it was like a little blowout at the end, they've gone through.
They're good.
Even that
They're
first
really
game,
good.
The first game they were struggling in the first half, and then they got it together.
Yeah, they can. Well, they're a team when they can get hot. They can get real hot.
They
but,
get really good runs.
yeah, they can shoot. They are fast. They play athletic. But I think Baylor's a really really good defensive team as well as
there,
offensive.
there we have it.
Is everyone-
Baylor -7?
I'm riding with you, Vic. I'm riding with you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Go
I'll take
Baylor.
it.
Go Baylor.
Go Baylor.
So just to kind of put the icing on the cake here, if you're still listening, thank you guys so much. I know you guys have been struggling with us through Zoom. Listeners, if you guys have been watching us on YouTube or listening to us, you can tell that our quality hasn't been there because we've been on Zoom. So thank you for listening still. I do want to, really thank Victor for coming in today and really, really letting us know what it's like to be someone like him.
He's coming back. We're gonna have Vic back because this was just a great back. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of people come on the show, people that we're friends with, and people that we have in our friend group that we talk to, and not just for when Doc's out. And again, we miss Doc. We love Doc. I can't wait to have Doc back on the show. But if I don't know if Chris is busy, we'll probably have to do it on Zoom because that's where the stew is. But like if Earl's busy or I'm busy, like to have another friend fill up the spot, whoever it is, or even to have Vic back. Like,
And
we're
another
excited to
thing
have
too that I feel like has gotten lost for us in the last couple episodes are my main reason why I wanted to start this podcast. I want people to be able to listen to us and relate to what we have to bring to the table. So Victor was perfect. There's a lot of people, like I said, who are going through the same things as us, and I think it was just perfect what you talked about and some advice you could offer. So thank you, Victor.
Thank you guys.
Vic.
No, thank you guys for having me.
That was fun.
I feel
was glad
I
to
feel a
have you.
lot better now. I feel I'm not as nervous.
It's not so
anymore.
bad.
Yeah,
right?
it's not bad.
Once
I
you
feel
get
good now.
talking,
Yeah.
it's just like
I feel good.
we're just talking like any other time. That's the best part about
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
It's like the way you would come up and hit on me in the bar.
Mm.
All right, so
On
to
that note,
finish the episode, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, we definitely plan on having Vic back. A great background on him. The next time he comes on the show, depending on how many weeks or months or whatever the case is, like we definitely plan on getting a little more. Now that you guys have a good background on him, we bust balls all the time with Vic. Awesome to. There's actually so many stories we can go back on and just have like personalized like vendettas towards each other. But I'm actually ecstatic that the people listening got to know more about him. He's funny. He actually won Smart and Sporty in high school. He's one of those icons in the yearbook.
I do love having a guest on the podcast. I remember, I don't know if it was like our first or second episode, but I always think that everybody has a voice and everybody has something to say,
Especially when they're as sexy as Vic.
and you should make it known what you have to say. So, and with that, it's Monday. I love Monday. Victor's one of those guys that has to drive. You have to drive to work, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Vic's got to drive to work. He's going to wake up tomorrow because he was here listening to me, and I'm telling him that Monday is the best day ever. It's the day you just start your week, set the tone for it all. So.
always win Monday.
Maybe just
Always.
bet Baylor -7 and call it a day.
And then you
Win your Monday.
can literally and physically and monetarily win your Monday
Yeah,
if you
that's
take
what I'm
Baylor.
saying.
Apparently, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
According to
We'll
Vic,
see,
you
yeah.
allegedly take Baylor.
Yep.
Any closing points, guys?
That's it. For
I got
me.
nothing else.
I better have a fat factory next week because
I have one.
All
Well,
right.
we didn't
We'll
want
be
to.
back
We didn't
to
want to have
normal.
a fact this week. We really wanted it all to be about Victor.
Well, Vic was just
we
spitting
wanna-
facts.
Yeah, Vic spit all the facts for me, and he spit the facts about Baylor. That was way better than what my fact would have been. I'd rather have a Vic pick. You can't make money off my fact. You could potentially make money off Vic's pick. So
I'm coming for Doc.
that's what I'm
coming for him.
saying.
His picks are predictable. It's like either the Trailblazers or the Falcons
Or
that make
the
the playoffs. Yeah.
But,
All right, boys. It's been real. We enjoyed the conversation. Vic, thank you for coming out. And
You're welcome.
yep. And everyone have a good day. Win Monday, guys.
Win Monday.
Bye.
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 Bye.